Hi, I'm Rich Fink from the Western Latin Art and Studio Tour, and it is my pleasure today to interview photographer Terri Parent. Terri, how are you doing today?
I am terrific. So
Great.
glad to be with you.
Oh, same here, same here. So let's get started, and maybe you can tell me a little bit about your artist journey.
Well, my journey is probably very similar to a lot of artists in that I didn't train to be a photographer or an artist. I was in corporate America for a long time, so this is my late in life career. But everything I did was a stepping stone to getting to where I am. I started out in finance, so I got my business background, and then I went into another area that I really loved, fashion. I owned a clothing store. I worked for a large fashion company in New York, and then as those things sort of fell apart. The company I was working for went under, and I got an unexpected bonus check a couple months after I was trying to figure out what to do with myself. And I had always loved photography, and so this was when digital was starting to, really take hold. So I went looking for a camera, and just looking, as you know, and of course walked out with one. And it was right before, yeah, it was right before Christmas, and I hid it in my closet. So, and then because I had buyer's remorse as soon as I got home, because, of course I shouldn't have been spending that money then. Well, what happened is I waited too long to return it. so I had a camera. So I then just started learning how to use it. And my strategy was I would go out and take 100 photos a day. And I read everything I could. And this was really when you were reading books. There wasn't a whole lot on the internet at that point that you could access. I'm a dinosaur.
What are those?
Yeah, exactly. So, and then it just at the same time, I was getting very involved with an art community in Great Falls where I lived, and ended up being the first director of the School of Art there. And one of the artists unexpectedly left, and it had never occurred to me to have a studio. And I just stood in this doorway of the studio and I said, "You got to do this." So this is how it just all sort of started happening. And I look back at my first photography, and it was so bad. It was so bad. I mean, the content was good. The development wasn't there. I still had a lot to learn, and I quickly realized that. But I just kept working at it and working at it, and being like a sponge, picking up everything that I could. I've only taken one photography course from someone else, and I didn't finish it because I get bored halfway through, and I think, I just want to go out and shoot, do these things. So it's just a passion that I was able to finally realize. And I'm very lucky in that I have a very good eye. So what I may lack technically, I can make up in other ways. I'm not one of these photographers who tells you on and on and on about all the shutter speeds and apertures and blah 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 blah. I just do it. Because I enjoy it, and then I let my computer help me fix my problems.
There you go. Yeah, and those computers we've heard over and over, they make your life easier, right?
Sometimes, yeah, but from if a photographer is really honest with you, they spend 75% of their time editing their photos now on the computer, and there's so many great programs, and they just keep expanding. And right now, I don't spend as much time actually with my good camera, my Nikon, as I do with my iPhone, because everybody's smartphone has an incredible camera on it, and the apps that you can put on your phone and what you can do with them, it's mind blowing. It's a matter. It's what I mean. I probably have put 20 new iPhone apps on my phone since the pandemic started, and
Wow.
some of the results are just amazing. And you'll see one of them when we get to that point. So we can
Okay.
talk. Yeah. So, yeah. So anybody that's a snob about iPhone photography needs to get over it.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you a question. So,
Yeah.
how long has it been since you started being a professional photographer?
It's around 10 years.
Okay. And
Yeah.
in those 10 years, I mean, obviously you were learning at that point, and things were changing, as you've said. Technology was changing. But how did your style and technique change over that time?
Um, I stopped trying to be everything, and only concentrate on the things that really spoke to me. I have, I have a real affinity to nature, but not necessarily landscape. I don't take big sweeping views of landscapes. What I love to do is find a tree or a flower, or, I'll be out walking and just something catches my eye that just is so unusual. And nature has its own language, and if you can tap into that, I mean, you can just get the most amazing photos. So I just started focusing on the things that really spoke to me, and what I felt I had a talent for. And some of that is just finding just a gorgeous flower. For example, right now peonies are amazing, and this later in the summer dahlias are amazing. And I can just be in my studio with my little setup, and just take hundreds of photos of a flower, and then I turn them upside down, I turn them backwards, I pull them apart, I let them die. um, because flowers actually, in their afterlife, take on different colors and different structural beauty, if you will. So um, I never, nothing, my studio always looks like a disaster. My husband won't even come through the door because he's afraid something will bite him, because I have dead flowers all over the place. I never throw away anything, but there's, until I've exhausted them. So that's pretty
Oh,
much how it's changed. And then just learning about light and different backgrounds, and breaking the rules, because honestly, and I think that's what any artist realizes, is that there are, you're taught certain things, but sometimes breaking that rule is what makes it different. And what you're
yes.
trying to do is tell a story, make an emotional connection with the person that's looking at it,
Yeah.
and that's what touches people.
Yeah. I agree with you. So, why don't we move over, and you can give me the details about these three
Sure.
wonderful photos of yours. How's that sound?
That sounds great.
Okay, here we are, and what a great intro, because we have this amazing pot of flowers here that you've done
Yeah.
on the left side. So tell
Yes.
me a little about that.
Um, that was when I was really studying some other people's work who got that real dark moodiness. And so I worked really hard to create that in my studio, because I tend to do more bare looking backgrounds. But this was an opportunity to pull a still life with the bowl to the side. And this was actually done in the wintertime. And there's nothing that delights me more than to find spring looking flowers in the winter. It just, brightens anybody's mood. And I just really had to play with light and shadows, and carefully pick even the table that it was set on, and then the background, and then bring that little bit of light coming down behind the flowers, just to get, a real, I mean, it's such a burst of color from the flowers, and the rest of it is I don't know, it's very vintage looking to me, which I liked.
Hmm. Well, it's certainly beautiful, and well, it's not dead flowers, right?
No, they're not dead. They're probably still in my studio somewhere, though.
Okay, let's move to the middle photo, and this is really an interesting image. Where was this taken?
This was taken in Montmartre. 1 week actually before the horrible shootings in Paris.
Oh,
And we were there. We had taken our daughter, who's an adult, with us, and we were touring. We actually were going to Sacré-Cœur for the beautiful view, and of course it was cloudiest day of our whole trip, and we couldn't see anything. So we were just going all over the streets, and this artist was working in her studio, and I just crept very quietly towards her doorway and just kept snapping photos. And of course, what makes the photo is how beautiful the color of the outside of the studio was. But it was, I love sneaking up on people and them not knowing it. It's you get some really great images, and you can tell she's just really intent on whatever she's working on, and it's one of my favorite photographs I've ever taken.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I'm just so drawn. Whenever I travel, what I just love is how they use color on the exterior of their buildings. And we don't do that very much here. And I'm just always drawn to that.
Yeah, that's very true in Europe and
Hmm.
Italy and Spain and whatever. They do think that they don't have to have little pink houses.
Yeah. My only regret was that I wasn't invited in to see the rest of her studio because it looked very interesting.
It does look very interesting. All right, well, let's go to the orchid.
Well, this was really fun. This was taken in January, and I love orchids. And in my former house, I had loads and loads of windows, and I had orchids all over my house. And then I was very successful in getting them to rebloom. But when we moved to Leesburg, I don't have the windows that I do, so my orchids kind of get neglected after they bloom. And I was cleaning up my studio after the holidays, and all of a sudden this orchid that I don't even think I'd watered in 3 months had bloomed. It bloomed. And so I was like my 2020 surprise. So, and it looks large there, but it was really a very small blossom, and I could tell it was very fragile and wasn't going to last long. So I quickly started taking photos of it, and this was taken with my iPhone. And in my studio with just a white background, but I used, there are some artists that have come up with these wonderful applications that you can put over to get all these different looks. And they're very painterly, and some of them are a little grungy, and some of them give you a vintage look, and or you can make them look sort of surreal. So I just kept playing with this one, and it turned out really nice. And it not only does it look good printed on paper, but I've done it on acrylic and canvas as well. And on every surface it looks a little different. So that's been really fun to play with.
Yeah.
And the orchid didn't last another day.
Oh, really?
It fell off. It was so delicate. It was just barely hanging on. It's like it bloomed just long enough for me to photograph it, and then it went kaput. So, but it was nice.
That's what it wanted, right? It was
Yes.
hanging on for you.
That's right. That's right.
What is the inscription, the writing?
It was part of the it's French, and I have no idea what it's saying, but it was part of the overlay that I used, which was great.
Oh.
Yeah.
I was
amazing.
Expecting you to read it to me.
Oh no, sorry. Although there are artists that do that, mixed media artists do that very successfully in their work. So I was really glad to find something that I could just, literally click a button, and it gave me that same effect.
Yeah, it's great. They're all, what I love about this collection is they're all so different, and they all have an emotion to it. I mean, like you were saying, that's what one of your goals in photography is to bring emotion to the viewer, right?
Absolutely.
Well, great. I'm gonna whisk away these three photos, and then I have a question or two for you, and we'll take it
Okay,
from.
sounds good.
Okay, and here we are. Here we are.
Yeah.
So my, I really think that art lovers from all types would love to see more of your inventory. They would, and they also I would think want to buy some of the inventory, which is always nice, right? So
Exactly.
to do that, they're going to need your social media connections, your URL for your website. So if you could give me those, I think it would definitely help the, like I said, the art lovers who are searching for stuff like this.
Awesome. Well, you can find me on Facebook at Terri Parent Fine Art and Photography.
Mhm.
Instagram is Terri Parent Photo. And my website is www.terriparentphotography. On my Facebook and Instagram, I try and post fairly regularly. I usually go in spurts because you'll find a lot of great things, images to do, and then you take a couple days break. But I do try and keep a presence so that because it's fun, and I love seeing what the other artists are doing as well. So it's
Well,
fun to
good.
share. And I think during this particular time, it's been really nice to see what everybody's working on and to share. And everybody, you can't help but look at a beautiful painting, photograph, sculpture, and not just feel better.
True. And if there's anything that we need now, it's feeling better, and
Absolutely.
and everybody also needs a laugh,
Exactly.
especially especially now. Yeah.
Yes.
And I really hope, for both the artist and the art lover's sake, that the experience of having the interviews makes an impact for them. Because I think, you've been at the live tour in the past, and you know that the art lovers are thirsty to find out what the story behind the art is.
Exactly. And I think that's why the tour is so successful. And it's why at the end of every day of the tour I can barely talk because I have talked and talked and talked. But it's true. Everyone wants to, if they're really drawn to something, they want to know everything about it. And then it becomes even more dear to them.
Absolutely.
And that's
Absolutely.
why, and that's why we do it. I mean, it's certainly it's wonderful to sell a piece of your work, but the real part is sharing it and putting it out there so that it brings joy to someone else.
Absolutely. I agree with you. Definitely. Um, well, Terry, it has been, as I expected it to be, it has been a fun chat with you.
It has
Uh,
been fun. Thank you. You made it very fun.
well, good, good. That's great. So I got a couple of things I want you to do for me. One
Okay.
is to stay safe. Another is to stay healthy. And, the third is have a great day.
Thank you. And I wish the same for you as well.
All right. Take care.
Okay. Thanks.